Hi guys, it's MVJ, and holy shit, it has been a long time. As of recording this right now, it's actually been 7 months since my last video. Honestly, there is really no other excuse aside from I didn't really feel up to making videos. I wasn't exactly in the best of places, but now I'm back anyway, so none of that really matters, and yeah, I'm back. So I thought what would be really awesome is for me to actually update my VI guide, so what I was thinking anyway is I'm going to go back through the guides I actually did for Season 6 and then just update them for Season 7. Obviously there might not be too much to update, but obviously it's still nice just to update them nonetheless. And then it actually works out nicely since the very first guide that I made was actually a VI guide, so I guess coming back and then making the VI guide to kick things off is a pretty good place to start. But anyway, with all that stuff out of the way, might as well move on with the guide. So this guide is going to actually assume that you generally know what the basic champion abilities are, although if not I will give you a super simplified rundown. So for example with Vi, her passive is a scaling HP shield, so the more HP you have, the more the shield will shield you for. Her Q is just a dash ability, the longer you charge it the further it goes, the more damage it deals, and if you do come into contact with an enemy champion, it will knock them back for 0.7 seconds. Her W is a on-hit ability. After hitting someone 3 times, it will pretty much activate the ability and you will deal % max health and then also have increased attack speed for a certain duration. Her E is an auto attack reset, it does extra damage on your auto attacks. And finally for her ultimate ability, it is a 1.25 second lockdown. It is completely point and click, you don't have to do anything aside from hover your mouse over the person and press R. The leveling order on Vi, what you want to follow is pretty much what you're seeing on screen right now. So you want to start W, then go for E, then go for Q, and then of course you're going to be maxing Q, then E, then W, and of course taking a point in R whenever you can at level 6, 11 and 16. As for the Masteries on Vi, you have pretty much 2 options. So the first option is going 12-18-0 with Thunderlord's Decree. So some people say that this makes you really squishy, although to be honest, Vi has the passive shield anyway, and then you generally do build semi-tanky, so you're not incredibly squishy, although I do see what some people mean, like later on you can get blown up, but obviously, you know, don't 1v5 and then you'll be perfectly fine. The second option that you have is a more tankier route where you go 12-0-18 and that's going Courage as a Colossus. This is pretty much down to preference, I would say. It depends on your playstyle and stuff like that, so if you do like the extra early aggression you can go with Thunderlords, it can help you snowball a little bit early on, but then if you do want to sort of scale up, be a little bit more safer with the extra tankiness from the shield when you're engaging, then by all means go for Colossus, although personally I do prefer the Thunderlord, so that's what I'll recommend in this video. As for the runes, I am showing those on screen now, so this is like a general purpose page for jungle. This actually works for a lot of AD junglers, for example like Lee Sin. You can run it on stuff like Nocturne and anything like that, it's perfectly fine, so this page will actually serve you for more than just Vi. It can also work on a lot of other AD junglers. Now I know some people will say that for Vi you might want to run, instead of just a full flat 9 armor yellows, you can actually run 4 armor and then 5 HP per level. The scaling ones, that's perfectly fine, it's just all comes down to preference really. But the page that I have shown is 9 AD reds, 3 attack speed quints, 9 armor yellows, and then for blues you can either run CDR per level or you can run MR per level. It's perfectly fine really, it just pretty much comes down to preference. Moving on to the item build for Vi, you actually have quite a lot of options. She's a very versatile champion. I know some people don't really like sort of a tankier build for Vi, but it honestly is really just preference. You can go really whatever you want, depends on playstyle and stuff like that. But anyway, the first build that you are seeing is the pretty much traditional Vi build, the Warrior, Trinity Force, Maw, Deadman's GA. So the Warrior Trinity Force being really quite core on Vi, and then Maw for any magic damage, your Deadman's is for AD, and then GA is just kind of you're a diver anyway, so GA is super nice. Of course, if the enemy team is like full magic damage, then don't go for the Deadman's, you obviously go for like Banshee's Veil or something like that. As for the second build that you're seeing on screen, that involves Cinderhulk. I know there is a bit of, not controversy, but sort of weariness around Cinderhulk on Vi. Personally, I don't exactly like it, but it does work. Like, if you really want and you're really good at Vi, you can build AP and still win games. Like, it doesn't really matter that much. But if you do go Cinderhulk, I would highly recommend that you go Black Cleaver, because going for Trinity Force, it's not too good. It's also a really expensive item as well, and when you're going tanky, that's generally because you're behind, and you want to get some low, really effective, very cost-effective items that you can actually help your team out, because obviously you're behind, you're not really looking to carry this game, you're just trying not to feed as much and pretty much just be useful for your team. As for the third build that you're seeing on screen, this is like you might think it's a very weird build. I believe it's like an old Season 5 build, sort of around that time that people used to run and buy. Obviously not everyone. It was XJ9, I believe, that actually used this build quite a lot. I used to run it on champions like Shyvana and Nocturne and stuff like that. But personally, I don't run this build. I prefer the more standard Trinity Force build. I think that's very good. But you can run this one. It's more of a fun build, I would probably say. So if you're just messing around in normals with friends, whatever, run this build. It's actually really fun when you do get really far ahead. You can just melt tanks and some one-shot squishies. So that's the item builds that you've got. Obviously, it is pretty much dependent on the enemy team. If they're full AD, don't go for the Maw or anything like that. You can go for Dead Man's and Omen at the same time, stuff like that. So remember, it's not completely set in stone, it does depend on the enemy team. As for the jungle clear on Vi, I'll pretty much recommend two things in this video, so it depends really what you want to do, and obviously keep in mind that this does depend from game to game. So some games you'll be able to full clear, and other games you'll want to be doing a level 3 clear where you have double buffs and you can get out on the map as fast as possible. So the level 3 clear is where you go from, for example, like blue buff to wolves to red, and then you go top lane or mid lane, something like that. So you might want to do that in a really aggressive game, or where your laners are always fighting constantly. So you might have like Riven and Darius top, and Riven's playing super aggressive. You want to go level 3 straight to top to help Darius out. If he snowballs, then the game's over for Riven. Whereas in the next game that you might play, it actually might be totally different, where pretty much nothing's happening, your laners are quite safe, it's quite difficult to gank the actual enemy laners, so you might just want to opt for a full clear and then try and do something after you've backed on your level 4. And as you might expect, the full clear is pretty much what it sounds like, it's where you pretty much full clear. So that's where it's like, for example, you go blue, Gromp, wolves, and then just pretty much work all the way up, raptors, red, and then Krugs, and then recall. But please remember, as I said before, don't be full clearing when there are things happening on the map. This does actually depend game to game. I'll probably have a video on pathing later on, actually. I'll try and bring that out just to explain and clear up some issues with pathing and stuff regarding that. And that pretty much does it for this video, guys. Hope it actually helped. That is now the first guide completed for Season 7. As I said, I'll probably rehash over the other ones, so like Elise, Lee Sin, and all that other stuff. So I'll rehash over those for Season 7. And then as well, like I said, I'll probably bring out some other jungle related videos for like pathing and stuff like that, just sort of explanation and generally what you want to be doing as well, just sort of like little useful tips kind of thing. I'll probably do that as well. Another thing I just want to address really quickly as well is, if you have actually seen the other videos that I made, they were actually far longer than this. I know this one is vastly cut down, so the other ones were like 20-30 minutes ish for a guide. I know that was quite a long time as well, but I've decided to condense them down just because generally you don't really want to be watching a super long video, and I'm trying to keep sort of ish the same amount of information, just real like core things that you need to know, like item builds, runes, masteries, stuff like that. And then of course if you don't know what the abilities do, then I've left that small section in where I just really simplify down what the abilities do, and that should hopefully help anyone who's sort of in that bracket of where you're not really sure what the champion does or generally how the abilities interact. And that pretty much about wraps it up, I would say. So anyway, I hope this did actually help someone. That'd be awesome. As long as it helped one person, that's perfectly fine by me. And I will say, before you leave, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe, because I'm back now. As I said, I'm going to be rehashing the other videos and making more guides, putting out more content, all that good stuff. So anyway guys, see you in the next video.